This is the Owen J. Roberts Board of School Directors regular business meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and presentation of colors by the Navy Junior Reserves Officer Training Corps, followed by a moment of silence. Colors. Please join us in a moment of silence as we reflect on those serving in the United States Armed Forces, both past and present, the elected leaders of the state of Pennsylvania, and elected leaders of our nation. I also ask all to remember Mrs. Melissa Booth during this moment of silence. Mrs. Booth served on the Owen J. Roberts School Board for 8 years. Her dedication to our community and its students was remarkable. Our condolences to her and her family and friends. Thank you. Color guard, post colors. Once again, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this month's meeting. It's nice to see so many new and returning faces. Agenda item 3.1, executive session announcement. The Board of School Directors met on the following dates in executive session to discuss items in one or more of the following areas: legal, personnel, or real estate matters on May 20th, 2024. Agenda item 4, the superintendent's report. Dr. Stout.
Thank you, Mrs. Peterson. We're going to welcome Abby Smith tonight, Student Government Executive Council Treasurer, who will provide the student government report in place of Joshua Zhang. Josh is on his way to the Odyssey of the Mind World Finals, which is being held at Iowa State University. On behalf of our entire Wildcat community, we wish Josh all the best at the World Finals and as he attends NYU after graduation.
Springtime is an exciting time for our elementary students. We have completed the ELA, math, and science PSSAs, and our students worked exceptionally hard to show how much they've grown academically this year. Kudos to our teachers and students for their tireless pursuit of academic excellence this year. This spring has also been filled with many fun events such as choir and band concerts, as well as beautiful art shows that have transformed our schools into museums of fine art. We have so many talented musicians and artists at the elementary level. We're also looking forward to many other fun end-of-year activities such as field trips, book fairs, and game days. There's no shortage of excitement at the elementary level at this time of year. As we move into the month of June, we also want to take a moment to wish our 6th grade class well as they move on to the middle school. Our 6th graders have accomplished so much during their elementary days, and we can truly say that they've made our schools better places because of their enthusiasm for growing academically, socially, and emotionally. We are tremendously proud of this 6th grade class, and we wish you all the best as you enjoy many wonderful opportunities that lie ahead for you at the middle school. Middle school. This past Tuesday, May 14th, members of the Owen J. Roberts Middle School Leo Club went to Ian's Boots to assist with cleaning, tagging, and sorting of shoe donations. The Leos worked from 5:30 to 7:30 and started their evening learning about how this local charity came to be. Additionally, They learned about how the organization performs outreach to the local community and various countries around the world. It was a great night of service. This past Thursday and Friday evening, our middle school band and orchestra students performed in their respective spring concerts. This week, our middle school chorus students will do the same. Congratulations to all these students and their instructors on all their hard work this year. On Thursday, May 16th, several middle school students and our best buddies participated in Special Olympics events in our high school stadium. As always, our entire middle school staff and student body lined the walkway from the middle school to the high school to provide them with a proper send-off. Congratulations to all these athletes and their buddies. As the end of the school year approaches, we are looking forward to many events at the middle school, including, but not limited to, awards assemblies, 6th grade student visitation, 8th grade Gettysburg trip, 8th grade farewell dance, and yearbook distribution. High school. At the high school, AP and IB exams have mostly come to a close, and tomorrow is our final day of Keystone exams. More excitingly, this time of year is characterized by culminating events throughout the building. Within the last month alone, we've held the NJROTC Change of Command Ceremony, Farm Day, the Reality Fair for 11th grade students, spring concerts for band, choir, and orchestra, the 20th Annual OJR Film Festival, the Art Show, inductions for the International Thespian Society and National Art Honor Society, and Special Olympics. Students have traveled extensively to state and national competitions. 3 students attended the PMEA State Choral Festival in Erie. The Indoor Percussion Ensemble participated in the WGI Percussion World Championships in Dayton, Ohio. 22 students California for DECO's International Career Development Conference. 3 of our Odyssey of the Mind teams will travel to Iowa State University later this week to participate in the World Finals, while our band, orchestra, and choir students head to Ohio. As spring athletics begin to come to a close, our girls track and girls lacrosse programs won their PAC championship team. Individually, we have had 5 PAC champions in track and field, had a student win the PAC singles tennis championship, and a team win the PAC doubles tennis championship. We also had 5 boats make the finals and earn medals at the Philadelphia City Rowing Championships. Lastly, our first culminating event for the seniors took place 2 weeks ago with the senior prom. Following the Memorial Day weekend, we have a number of senior-specific events to look forward to leading up to graduation on Friday, June 7th at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you, Abby. Once again, I would like to thank Josh for his role as the class of 2024 Student Government Executive Council President, and welcome Maggie Mullen, the incoming Student Government Executive Council President, who will be serving with us next year. Now I'd like to turn things over to Steve Kohler, our high school principal, for the valedictorian and salutatorian introductions. Mr. Kohler will then recognize the OJR seniors who have chosen to serve in the military upon graduation, and the students in our DECA program who received awards at the state competition, which was held in February at the Hershey Lodge. Mr. Kohler.
Thank you, Dr. Stout. Good evening. I am lucky to be joined in the room tonight by a number of our high school students, staff, and families. While I have the opportunity to work with these individuals on a daily basis, I'm excited to share their accomplishments with all of you this evening. So as Dr. Stout said, we are going to start with our recognition of our valedictorian and our 2 salutatorians this evening. So as we prepare for our commencement exercises in 3 weeks, this evening we recognize our 2 salutatorians and our valedictorian for the class of 2024. As has become tradition in the district, we will learn about these students first through the lens of hearing the student speak about an educator who has had a significant impact on their development, and then we will hear from the educator regarding their lasting impressions of the student. After 4 years of classroom assignments, homework, assessments, and everything else that goes into a student's grade, this year we have 2 salutatorians with identical GPAs over the course of their 4-year careers. I would first like to invite Ms. Vedika Nair and Mrs. Karen Susadale to the podium. Vedika will be studying mathematics at Northeastern University in the fall.
Hi, I'm Vedika. I would like to recognize Mrs. Susadale as my teacher that's had the greatest impact on me as a student. She's been a part of my education for 3 years, which is lots of quality time to influence my high school journey. Her enthusiasm for teaching has helped me find a love for Latin, which is the class that she taught me for the past few years, as well as a love for learning in general. Mrs. Susedale was always there for me when I had questions about class, school, and just about anything. And I always loved it when I or the other classmates would ask a niche question and somehow Mrs. Susedale would know the answer. I love our interesting lessons, engaging discussions, and all of our digressions. Her patience and support has helped guide me through high school and all my ambitions. So thank you, Magister Susedale.
Thank you, Vedika. I'm deeply honored and profoundly moved to be recognized as your most influential teacher. This acknowledgement is a reflection of the incredible journey of growth and learning that we've embarked upon together. We've had the opportunity to work together for 3 years, and I'm so thrilled about how you've embraced a deep appreciation for the ancient world and used this knowledge to make vibrant connections to your academics and personal experience. I greatly admire your yes and approach to your studies and involvement in the classroom. You have a keen ear and eye for content and quick with questions and clarifications. Your extracurricular involvement in the Latin Club and Junior Classical League have been a great model for younger students. And your service as OJR JCL Secretary for the past 2 years, PA JCL Vice President of Membership this year, as well as your service as a teacher's assistant in my classroom this year have influenced younger students to get involved. And this is a legacy and testimony to your energy, your good humor, and your industry. Vedika and I both attended and performed our respective duties at the annual Pennsylvania Junior Classical League Convention this past weekend at Penn State University's main campus. During the event, we had 2 opportunities to recite the creed of the National Junior Classical League. And Vedika, I very much see you reflected in the last 2 stanzas. We believe that the study of the ancient world will help us examine the world and expand our understanding of literature, language, arts, sciences, and humanity. And we affirm that the JCL experience develops leadership, fosters community, promotes enthusiasm, encourages competition, inspires dedication, and enriches our total growth. Vedika, I wish you every good thing as you begin your next chapter studying mathematics at Northeastern.
All right, for our second salutatorian, I was going to invite her to the podium, but Abby, you have a microphone this evening, so I'm going to leave it up to you. But Abby is here this evening with Mrs. Adrienne Andres. Abby will be studying biology on a pre-veterinary track at the University of Pennsylvania in the fall. And like I said, Abby, you can speak from there, you can speak from here, it's up to you.
Carita Profe. When I told you I was salutatorian, you beamed with excitement and joy as if I was your own daughter. For the love you pour into your students is evident in the pride you have in them. From the first time I walked into your class, you ensured each student felt important, as you individually shook everyone's hand, saying, mucho gusto, or encantada. From that moment, I knew I could always go to you for advice, a laugh, or a simple smile. Your dedication to ensuring that each one of your students is heard and cared for is admirable, and I was fortunate to see your enthusiasm for your passions firsthand. You are the kind of person who is meant to be a teacher. Taking your class not only expanded my horizons of the world and accelerated my Spanish education, but it gave me a mentor, someone who I always look up to. I am grateful for the time I got to spend with you. Thank you for using your planning periods to talk with me and help me prepare for AP Spanish tests, even when you needed to grade cultural comparisons. Thank you for listening to me and making me feel better. You had to hear about physics quite a lot, and that alone should give you an award. Thank you for your kindness, guidance, and encouragement. Tú eres una maestra que todas las personas necesitan en su vida. Gracias por todo.
Give me a second here. Oh, sure. So, truly an honor to be here. You, to start my thoughts with, when you asked me to write your letter of recommendation this year, I knew it was going to be easy, but I also knew it was going to be challenging at the same time. Easy because Abby embodies all of the qualities of an exceptional student, which is obvious as we stand here to recognize her tonight.
However, it was challenging because it was my job to communicate to the selection committee just how dynamic and full of life she really is. To have Abby as a student is to truly know what energy, enthusiasm, and excitement are in a classroom. And wow, is her energy ever contagious. She brings that spark to everything she does, and she truly inspires others to engage. I'm not quite sure exactly how it all started, but Abby began to keep track of me. I think it was something along the lines we were learning the imperfect tense and we were talking about good intentions. Things that we were going to accomplish, but at the end of the day, we just don't finish. And sometimes we say, iba a hacer esto, pero no tenía tiempo. So I think I used the expression, I was going to do my exercises, but I forgot or I ran out of time. So every day while we were doing our warm-ups in class or reviewing our homework, Abby would remind me to do my calf raises. And I joke because Abby was not in my class this year. So I'm not quite sure that I've really regained the strength that I should have because I haven't kept up with it. But Abby approaches everything she does with gusto, whether it's on the basketball court, on the track, singing in the choir, attending classes, or walking down the hallway. She leaves every place better than before. I know that she will continue to thrive at Penn and to inspire others around her. And it is an honor for me to share in your joy tonight, Abby. Gracias por todo.
All right. And lastly, I went back and forth over the course of the last couple of minutes as to whether or not I would share the GPA of our valedictorian. I'm not going to do that. I'll let you keep that as a secret. But I would now like to invite our valedictorian, Miss Julia Robinson, and her guest, Mrs. Lauren Vannemon, to the podium. Julia is going to be studying business at NYU in the fall.
I don't believe any teacher made as great of an impression on me as my third grade teacher, Mrs. Vannemon. Every day, she welcomed us into her classroom with enthusiasm and a smile. She taught each and every one of us to be confident in ourselves and our abilities. At 8 years old, I was not a self-assured student. However, Mrs. Vannemon was the first teacher to give me permission to manage my medical care independently within her classroom. The confidence that she had in me as she allowed me to take autonomy over my medical decisions made me feel empowered in my education as well. I began to raise my hand more, participating with enthusiasm, and my new passion for learning remained with me even as I progressed to middle and high school. Her lessons only heightened my interest. I never found myself bored in her class. Each day was an exciting adventure as we delved into a new educational journey to learn about a different topic. So I want to say thank you for believing in me and all your students and for teaching us to be excited for the rest of our school experience.
So I am so very honored and humbled to be here tonight. And I first want to take a moment just to congratulate Julia on her incredible achievement of being named valedictorian for this year. Julia, from the very first day you walked into my third grade classroom, which was 10 years ago, it was evident that you possessed a rare combination of gifts: intelligence, grace, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. Your presence was a gift to me as your teacher, and I am grateful to have had a small part in your journey. One of the qualities that always stood out to me was your quiet strength. Despite your soft-spoken nature, your words carried weight. You approached challenges with maturity and determination. Third grade was a big year for you. You mastered your times tables. You learned how to write in cursive, went to Crystal Cave. You were admitted into the ATP program and became independent with your diabetes care. Your maturity as an 8-year-old and your family's unwavering support was very impressive to me. Since third grade, you have gone on to achieve many more things, and I couldn't be more proud of you. Julia, your future is so bright, and I have no doubt you will continue to make a positive impact wherever life takes you. Congratulations.
All right, so next we are going to recognize some of our DECA students. So DECA is the only international student organization operating through schools to attract young people to careers in marketing, merchandising, management, and entrepreneurship. From February 21st to February 23rd, our high school students traveled to the Hershey Lodge and Convention Center to participate in the state competition among 3,400 of their peers throughout the state. The high school had a number of students recognized for top performances in the state, many of whom are here with us tonight. I would ask that those who are in attendance tonight, please come up to the podium to get your certificate as your name is called. And I am going to go through each student just to make sure that I don't miss anybody. I'm going to step back and grab my certificate. Unfortunately, they're organized in the reverse order of how I have them organized, so this will be a little bit of an adventure. For the high case study role play, we had Brady Walker with full service restaurant management and Jeffrey Shalom for hotel and lodging management. And I know that Jeff is here tonight. I just recruited Jeff. He's going to help me out with the certificates. For event finalists, these are students who finished in the top 6. We had Ayana Nukula for hospitality and tourism selling, and then the team of Gabrielle Trapp and Hassini Malyaya for the international business plan. In 4th place, we had Megha Gudapudi and Lauren Hatt for the independent business plan. For 3rd place, we had Maya Evans for financial consulting, Jake Higgins in hospitality and tourism selling, Liam Brown and Adit Shah for startup business plan, Shannon Drucker for retail merchandising, and Josh Oyang, Brian Surfass, and Joshua Zhang for finance operations research. For 2nd place, we had Hamza Bandi and Vedika Nair for the franchise business plan. I know Vedika is here. Lauren Johnson and Lily Cockeram for integrated marketing campaign. Colton Waters for integrated marketing campaign. Roberto Vidal and Alejandro Vidal for entrepreneurship team decision making. And Braden Erickson and Dyson Neal for buying merchandising operations. And then for 1st place, we had Alex Trano for entrepreneurship individual series. Julia Robinson, Celia Bawe, and Olivia Savachka for business services operations research. And lastly, Marshall Farnham, Evan McLaughlin, and John C. Thadasetti for buying merchandising operations research. This evening, we will also be recognizing 10 of our high school students who have chosen to serve in the military upon graduation. These young men have demonstrated great courage and a sense of duty with their post-secondary plans. We thank them for their commitment to protecting our freedoms and future service for our country. I would ask any of these young men in attendance to please come forward to receive their certificate after their names have been called. Eli Berry, Daniel Epps, Tiago Everear, Aiden Hogland, Eric Hogland, Curtis Chrisman, Alex Trano, Cooper Varecchia, Dylan Weaver, and Tyler Zorden. And lastly, tonight, in addition to recognizing so many of our students this evening, I'm also lucky to have the opportunity to recognize one of our staff members. This year, we are honored to have Mrs. Doreen Steinmacher nominated and win a Citadel Credit Union Heart of Learning Award. The Citadel Heart of Learning Award is a nationally recognized program through Citadel Banking in the Chester County Intermediate Unit. The award is designed to honor and thank Chester County's teachers while raising awareness of the impact on students, families, and the entire community. Mrs. Steinmacher, can you come on up and join me at the podium? Sorry, I'm going to make you awkwardly stand in the front for a minute. So Mrs. Steinmacher received her award in a surprise ceremony that we did during fourth period with her concert choir class on Tuesday, April 16th, where we were lucky to have her students from the concert choir, the chamber choir, the naturals, and members of the musical with us. There is a video of a portion of the ceremony that's available on the district YouTube channel if you have not seen it. The best part of the ceremony was following the presentation of the award, we gave students the opportunity to stand up and share some of their experiences with Mrs. Steinmacher. Through a lot of happy tears and heartwarming stories, we were all reminded of the impact that an amazing teacher has in the lives of students as they shared how much that Mrs. Steinmacher means to them. Students spoke about how you make them feel welcome, about how you make them feel challenged, and how you provide a venue for them to develop their passions. The student response made it clear that she was a deserving winner of this year's awards. So congratulations and thank you for all that you do for our students. Doreen.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kohler. And I was fortunate enough to be at that ceremony when Mrs. Steinmacher was given that prestigious award and hear those student testimonials. And you did a much better job than me. I know when I spoke, I got choked up. It was just really heartwarming to hear the impact she has on kids. So thank you, Doreen. At this time, we're gonna have building principals come forward to recognize their PTA leadership. And we are going to start first with East Coventry Elementary, Dr. Oswald.
Thank you, Dr. Stout. I have the pleasure of thanking Mrs. Casey Michelli, who is our PTO president. And just a quick note, just to say thank you to Mrs. Michelli, who unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight, and all of her executive board for all the contributions that they have done, working tirelessly to help maintain the positive school environment that we have at East Coventry. So thank you very much, Mrs. Michelli and executive board. Thank you. Mr. Smith.
Thank you. It's my pleasure to honor Mr. Jim Daly and his efforts with our school PTA. And for all the PTA members, if you're ever lucky enough to be the president, not only are you involved in the school, but your whole family is involved in the school. And maybe Mrs. Peterson can attest as well. When you're the president, then your spouse becomes like vice president as well. So please, I'd like to give thanks to Mr. Daly and the tireless efforts he's provided, not only for the PTA this year, but our entire school community. So thank you, Jim.
Good evening. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize Mrs. Lori Pittick. Mrs. Pittick couldn't be with us this evening, but I'd like to acknowledge her tireless efforts on behalf of our French Creek School community, the way in which she has led our PTA and restructured our organization to provide committees to help our entire school community take part in more of the activities that we provide for our students. There's not a day that goes by that I don't see Mrs. Pittick in our building. And she truly has transformed our school community this year. So thank you, Mrs. Pittick.
Good evening. This evening, I would like to recognize Miss Amy Lignelli, the PTO president from North Coventry. Ms. Lignelli was one of the very first people that I met when I began here at North Coventry 2 years ago. and it quickly became apparent how much she places students first. Her goal was always to make sure that our activities and events at school were focused on the students, but they were easily accessible to all of our families who would be in attendance. As a past educator herself, she has led with a solutions-based mindset. She's collaborative, she's open, and as a result, many families and students have had an opportunity to enjoy the great events that we've had at North Coventry. Big shoes to fill with Amy leaving her position and many members of our executive board, but I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us at North Coventry for her service.
All right, so first of all, just want recognition for the principal who wore a blue jacket with an orange tie, the best between me and Mr. Kohler. You don't have to say it out loud, but yeah. Listen, it's neck up. It's not socks. So also want to take a moment as well to I didn't realize this recognition was coming, but congratulations to Mrs. Laura Van Emmen as well, to West Vincent Librarian. She does make an incredible difference for kids. So very proud that she's here as well. So I get the pleasure of being able to congratulate and celebrate Ms. Ashley Jakubik, our PTA president at West Vincent Elementary School. Our motto for this year is "No significant learning occurs without a significant relationship." And there's no one person or organization who represents that motto any better than Ashley and the PTA. Our PTA works tirelessly to create opportunities for significant relationships to be developed at West Vincent, whether it's our back to school bash, which brings out hundreds of people, the spring spectacular does the same, book fairs, you name it. Our PTA does a wonderful job of making sure that significant relationships are developed and kids and their families develop a really strong bond with our school. It should also be recognized that these volunteer hours occur on top of full-time jobs. Full-time jobs being a parent. There is so much time that goes into being a PTA president and representing the school. So we want to make sure that we recognize all that time that's dedicated to our school. And we really, really appreciate Ashley and the entire PTA for all they do to make our school great and to build those significant relationships. So Ashley, if you can come on up.
Good evening, board. I've been looking, I don't think Leslie Prophet is here. Is Leslie here? I don't think she is. She's been in a lot of board meetings. I don't blame her. She's probably tapped out by now. I'd like to thank Leslie Prophet for her 2 years of service as middle school PTA president. While she isn't here this evening, I can tell you she was always present when needed at the middle school. Not easy with middle school PTA. A lot of times the folks who are heavily involved in the elementary schools see when their child goes to the middle school as an opportunity to kind of break and take a time out from some of those long nights and hours and weekends and everything else that you put in at the elementary school, providing for teachers and students. So oftentimes, Leslie, you would find her and the other members of our executive board manning stations by themselves when we had events for students, or coming in to serve breakfast or lunch, or having community events in the evening. So she would rather do that than have to cancel something that she thinks would benefit our students, our teachers, our school, our community. And for that, I'm forever grateful. We're going to miss Leslie. We're fortunate to have some new folks across the board for us, bar one, but we're going to certainly miss Leslie's dedication to our middle school and wish her the best moving forward. So thank you, Leslie.
Just thought it was interesting when I only had to introduce one principal, and then the 5 elementary principals stood in line in the back. But then Mr. Stoltzfus, sorry. Yeah, you were last on the list, but congratulations to all of our PTA presidents, we appreciate all the work that you do for us and for our students throughout the district. So on tonight's agenda, we are accepting the retirements of 15 OJR employees, and 5 of those retirees are here this evening. So I'd like to read some comments about each one of the 5 retirees that are here this evening. And I believe, scanning through the audience, I've seen them all here. So first, we'll start with Cheryl Borinsky, French Creek MTSS coordinator. So Cheryl, we would like to recognize Mrs. Cheryl Borinsky on her well-deserved retirement after 36 years in education. Prior to joining Owen J. Roberts, Cheryl taught in the Daniel Boone School District for 5 years. She joined OJR in 1986 as a health and PE teacher. After having her 2 sons, Cheryl taught at Cedarville Preschool prior to returning to OJR. Cheryl then transitioned to an elementary classroom position and taught at North Coventry, East Coventry, Warwick, and French Creek. Cheryl has served as the IST, now MTSS coordinator at French Creek for the past 14 years. Cheryl is looking forward to spending time with her family, friends, and grandson, Hunter, in retirement. She also plans to volunteer for OJR and her church during her retirement years. So Cheryl, thank you and congratulations. So if I could have you stand up. Yeah. So it's here in writing, so I will look for your name on the substitute list. Thank you for putting that in the comments, Dr. McKillop. I appreciate that. So next, Mark Hofer. Mark, I see you here. It's great to see you. So Mark was born in Camp Lejeune Marine Base in Jacksonville, North Carolina. He grew up in Pittsburgh and earned a Bachelor of Science in Geology from Wittenberg University and a master's degree in education from Westchester University. He has worked exclusively at OJR Middle School since 1998 when he began his teaching career. Aside from teaching 8th grade science, he has coordinated the science fair and been student council advisor. Mr. Hofer is a huge sports fan. Sadly, he cheers for Ohio State in college football. However, he makes up for it with his favorite professional teams that are his Philadelphia and Pittsburgh teams. He enjoys cooking, reading, playing guitar, listening to live music, playing golf, and fishing. His son, Curl, is an OJR graduate. Mark and his wife, Melissa, plan to spend their retirement at their beautiful home in Nags Head, Outer Banks, North Carolina. Mark, thank you for your service and congratulations. Next, we have William Rowe, middle school custodian. I see you back there, William. So William has worked for the housekeeping department for 12 years, with the majority of his time spent at the middle school. William is a hardworking team member, assisting other members whenever needed. He has made himself readily available for overtime, even district-wide, not just at the middle school, even when emergency cleaning was needed during the holiday season. So thank you for that. William will be greatly missed, and we wish him the very best in his retirement. Thank you, William. Now, the one that I didn't see scanning, he might be there, Brian Sponigal. Brian, where are you? Were you to the right? Oh, okay, there you are, hiding. So, Brian is a high school tech ed teacher. So over his teaching career in both Delaware and Pennsylvania, Brian has written, taught, and revised over 10 technology education courses, as well as mentored and supervised 5 technology education staff members over his years as department head for both the high school and middle school. Brian has supported the development of a dedicated TV studio and created the weekly student news program, The Paw Report, which has run for 18 seasons, and founded and organized 20 OJR film festivals featuring hundreds of student films. In addition, Brian attended the Greenfield Film Festival with his classes, supporting students to develop numerous award-winning films, coached Odyssey of the Mind, football, baseball, golf, track and field, as well as developed and ran the Video Production Club. Brian, congratulations on your retirement. I believe that's all 5 of those. So, but thank you for being here. There are many upcoming events in the next few weeks for seniors. Oh. Oh, Dawn, I'm sorry. How did I do that? I went out of order. Oh, yes, I did go out of order. I skipped. Dawn, sorry about that. So, Mrs. Dawn Newswanger, East Coventry Reading Specialist. How can you forget the reading specialist? After several years in the business world, Dawn Newswanger realized she had a desire to work with children. After returning to college to complete her bachelor's degree, she started out as a preschool teacher. In 2010, she was hired by OJR as a Title I reading aide at North Coventry. She then had the opportunity to leave her to have her own second grade classroom at East Vincent while she completed a master's degree in literacy. In 2008, she moved to East Coventry as a reading specialist, where she has been ever since. Her future plans include travel, reading, and spending time with her husband, her son, and her future daughter-in-law. So Dawn, congratulations. Thank you for being here. Okay, a few other things in my report. So there are many upcoming events in the next few weeks for seniors, including the Senior Breakfast Yearbook Dedication, the Senior Sports Awards Banquet, the Senior Awards Assembly, and the culminating event, graduation, which is scheduled for Friday, June 7th. Graduation is scheduled for 6:30 p.m. with a rain date, Saturday, June 8th at 9:30. Lastly, the district will be closed on Monday, May 27th for the Memorial Day holiday. And Mrs. Peterson, that concludes my report.
Thank you. We are going to take a brief recess so that the board can reset and congratulate some of our retirees and our students. And we will see them out in the hallway. We'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 5, public comment. 5.1, public comment on agenda items. There are 2 opportunities for public comment. The first section is for information, proposals, and statements from individuals or delegations pertaining to items on the agenda that will be voted on tonight. Speakers are to indicate your name, township of residence, and the items on the agenda to which your comments are addressed. Speakers will be limited to not more than 3 minutes. Please understand that this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. The second section will be at the end of the meeting and is for residents to speak on any item. Also, if you have any question for the school board, please email all Board of School Directors at schoolboardmembers@ojrsd.net and you will receive a written response. For anyone online who would like to make a comment, please use the raise hand function when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and township of residence.
Heather McCurry, East Coventry. I feel like I say this all the time. My topic is number 7.6 student activity reports and the $42,000 in the government account still. And listening to so many really great teachers retired here today that have added to this district, and so many great accolades to the PTA, but sadness with the takedown of the high school PTA, because that PTA looks out for all of the kids. So there's so many kids here that are going on like trips, but they're for children that are maybe at the higher end, like DECA and the band and Odyssey of the Mind. The PTA is for everybody. And some of those activities, like, you know what I'm going to say, there's like days at the end of the year where there's nothing for many of those children. Not too late. You could at least send them to Hershey Park for about $14,000 and use up some of the money that's in there to give memories to all of the kids, right? Instead of just sitting at home, waiting around, nothing to do while their friends go off on the other trips. I just wish you guys would use your board powers to say, hey, yeah, that's a good idea. Why can't we do that for the kids?
Good evening, Dana Chappone, East Vincent Township. My point is just more of a housekeeping matter. In 13.17, that resolution, it references 1C as showing the aggregate of the, I guess, rebate that's coming back to taxpayers. I think it should be 1D. It shows the aggregate, so just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Agenda item 6, board committee reports. 6.1, working session. A working session was held on May 6th, 2024 at 6:15 p.m. The following committees met at this time: curriculum and special education. 6.2, Chester County Intermediate Unit. Mrs. Munson.
All right, well, there's been so much going on with the CCIU. I feel like I have a million updates. The board met Wednesday, May 15th at 7:30 p.m. at the CCIU Coatesville CTE, which stands for Career and Technical Education in Coatesville. And they gave us a little bit of an insight into some of the programs they run in that building, like the horticultural programs, construction trades, automotive, and internships and job shadows. We also had delicious food made by the students in the culinary program there. And I must say, every time I'm in a new facility, I am super impressed with the programs and the students. They report being happy in the programs there. So, you know, when we find a student whose placement is in a CCIU program, I have a lot of confidence in those situations. There are lots of graduations coming up. May 23rd for TCHS Brandywine, the 24th for TCHS Pickering, which is where most OJR students go if they want to go to TCHS, and then the 28th for Penix Bridge, and then June 4th for the CCIU Learning Center and the CCDC. Now, the CCDC is very much at capacity right now. So also on the CCIU list of things to do is construction. And so moving on to that, there will be a groundbreaking ceremony on June 18th for the CCDC Great Valley campus, which will then be the closest program to us for the students that are in those types of programs. So some of these are for the extremely challenged students who face physical as well as mental challenges. Some of them are for the disciplinary challenge students. So, and some of them are just very special programs. And I'm super glad that we're going to have that location closer to us. It's right at the corner of like 202 and Conestoga Road 401. So that's a really exciting development. Also, CCIU was named in the Philadelphia Inquirer's list of best places to work. That's super exciting. And they gave us some additional fact sheets for OJ, which then of course I forgot to bring here to give to all of you. I'll have to send out maybe a digital version. And another show and tell that we had while at the CTE Learning Center was some cell phone pouches that they're using at that location, where it's about $30 for each. The pocket essentially isolates the phone from receiving or sending any data. And so you put it in there, it has a magnetic lock, which then gets unlocked at the end of the day using a device, kind of like when you're leaving a clothing store and there's one of those big magnetic tags attached. And so that's how they have handled their cell phone issues, so that the students can have the phone on their person, but they can't do any communications through the phone. So if anybody's interested in that, we can learn more about how that program has been working for the CCIU. And next meeting will be Wednesday, June 20th at the TCHS Brandywine location. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Munson. 6.3, Curriculum and Special Education Committee, Mrs. Sabo.
The curriculum committee met as part of the May working session on May 6th. There were 2 names on the agenda. Dr. Bettman, Mrs. Burke, and Ms. Bonner provided a summary of the current gifted services. The presentation included information about identification, programming, budget, and the staff who provide the services. Dr. Monahan and Mr. Fletcher shared information about the Title I programs at East Vincent, East Coventry, North Coventry, and beginning next year, French Creek. They shared how the schools qualify for funding and how students qualify for services. Students receive extra reading and math instruction from additional staff who are assigned to these schools. A new textbook, Personal Fitness and Training, is included in the agenda item this evening. This book has been in board line communication for the last month. The curriculum committee is currently not scheduled to meet in the summer. The department work includes summer enrichment camps, academic classes, extended school year programming, jumpstart, kinder camp, the orientation week for induction, and personal development for all teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Sabo. 6.4, Finance, Building and Grounds Committee, Mr. Hermanos.
The Finance, Building and Grounds Committee did not meet this past month. However, we do have several items in the agenda today. Items 13.3 through 13.6 include appointments for district solicitors for construction matters, real estate assessment appeals, special education matters, general counsel for next fiscal year. Most of these things are just kind of routine year-end type items. I'm just prefacing that. 13.12 is approval to apply for a public school facility improvement grant for the Commonwealth Financing Authority, which was discussed during both March and April working sessions. The maximum amount of the grant is $5 million. It will be used for mechanical plant upgrades. Items 13.13, 13.14, 13.16, and 13.17 include final approval for the budget and tax collector resolutions, operating capital budgets, and the homestead farmstead exclusion resolution, which includes this year a tax rebate from the state gambling funds for the first time for next year for the 2024-2025 school year. Item 13.15 is for the senior property tax rent rebate program, which provides a tax rebate for seniors of up to 50% of the state's rebate. And items 13.18 through 13.21 include approval of bond coverage and facsimile signatures for board treasurer, school district depositories, and check signing authority.
Thank you, Mr. Hermanos. 6.5, Legislative and Policy Committee, Mrs. Munson.
The LNP committee has not met since our last meeting. However, we do have some receipt of policies for first reading on tonight's agenda. It's item 7.8, and the attendance, payroll deductions, and taxable fringe benefits are really just minor administrative changes. So updating policy to match how they work now. And the school calendar and school date updates are primarily around the school start time changes and some minor changes we discovered needed to be made to those policies to adjust.
Thank you. 6.6, Personnel Committee, Dr. Vitoli.
Thank you. It's a very busy time of the year, as you can see represented on the agenda. There's multiple retirees and work has begun on staffing those as well as other open positions. Last week, the district held a job fair here on campus and nearly 60 people were interviewed on the spot for various levels of positions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vitoli. Agenda item 7.1, a motion to approve recommended routine matters consent items 7.2 through 7.9. May I have a motion to approve the following routine matters, which are items 7.2 through 7.9 as action consent items?
So moved.
Mr. Hermanos.
Second.
Mrs. Munson, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 8.1, acknowledge receipt of donations, contributions, and gifts. May I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of donations, contributions, and gifts as presented? The district received $500 from the Friends of the Arts, $500 donation for scholarships to Art Camp this summer. The high school received $1,429.34 from the Education Foundation to mention music for a new sound system for the band. They received from the Ed Foundation $294 for supplies for the orchestra, and American Online Giving Foundation Benevity gave $94.50. At the middle school, the Education Foundation gave $491.90 for supplies to the band. At East Coventry, the Education Foundation gave $200 for the purchase of incubators and supplies, $620 for the purchase of aquarium gifts, and $321.44 for the One Book, One School program. And the PTA donated $2,800 to be split towards field trips for second, third, fourth, and fifth grades. At East Vincent, the PTA donated $500 for an assembly by the Indian Run Environmental Education Center on animal adaptations, PA wildlife, and awesome owls. Awesome. And at French Creek, the PTA donated $390 for a kindergarten field trip to Weaver's Orchard, $492 for the third grade field trip to Crystal Caves. At West Vincent, the PTA donated $1,000 towards field trips for first grade to visit the Elmwood Park Zoo and fourth grade to visit Paradise Farms. The PTA also donated $400 to provide a salad bar luncheon for the staff. May I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of donations, contributions, and gifts as presented?
So moved.
Mrs. Chevelle Fuller, do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Ratoli, any discussion?
Remind me who the Education Foundation is.
I think someone would probably have a more concise answer than I would.
Yeah, I mean, the Education Foundation is a nonprofit group, supports the school district. They give a lot of scholarships or awards out to teachers to promote programs that are not budgeted for at this time.
Great, thanks.
Any additional discussion?
And actually what's really quite an honor, I've had students make a donation to the Ed Foundation in my name when I was a teacher, which was really, really nice. And I've made donations in memory of and in honor of particular people also. It's just a wonderful group. They're very generous.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 9.1, the motion to approve routine matters consent items 9.2 through 9.5. May I have a motion to approve the following routine matters, which are items 9.2 through 9.5 as action consent items?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos,
Second.
Dr. Otoli. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 10, board discussion. Is there any board discussion at this time? Agenda item 11, old business. Mrs. Carmine, do we have any old business?
No, we do not.
Thank you. Agenda items 12. Approval of personnel matters 12.1 through 12, 12.1. Motion to approve personnel matters consent items 12.2 through 12.5. Do I have a motion to approve personnel matters consent items 12.2 through 12.5?
So moved.
Mrs. Sabo,
Second.
Mr. Harmonos, any discussion?
Just want to say thank you to all the individuals that are retiring. We have quite a few on this list, and pretty impressive when you look at all those years that they all rack up together and the effects that they've had on students in the district and some of the programs they brought to the district. So thank you for your time and dedication.
Absolutely. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 12.6, the approval of part-time casual appointments. I will be abstaining from this vote. Do I have a motion to approve the following personnel items as presented?
Move.
Dr. Otoli? Mr. Chevelle Fuller, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And one abstention. 13.1, the approval of out-of-state overnight student trips. Do I have a motion for the approval of out-of-state overnight trips as presented?
So moved.
Ms. Chevelle Fuller, do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Otoli, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.2, the ratification approval of conference attendance. May I have a motion for the ratification approval of conference attendance as presented?
So moved.
Mrs. Sabo,
Second.
Ms. Chevelle Fuller, any discussion?
This sounds silly, but I was just curious. What's the yearbook camp? Anybody know what that one is? The Gettysburg yearbook camp?
I don't know specifically, but I'm just going to make an assumption. It's probably for yearbook advisors to go away and get some training. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Never seen
I've
that
never
one
seen
before.
that before, but
Really?
that's just the assumption I'm making.
I think it's an odd turn of phrase.
Right.
What is probably a train. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.3, approval of appointment of law firm for construction matters. May I have a motion for the approval of appointment of Saxton and Stump as legal counsel for construction matters for the period of July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025 as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos.
Second.
Mrs. Munson, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.4, approval of the appointment of law firm for general legal counsel. May I have a motion for the approval of the appointment of Fox Rothschild LLP for general legal counsel for the period of July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025 as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos.
Second.
Mrs. Munson, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.5, the approval of the appointment of law firm for real estate assessment appeals. May I have a motion for the approval of the appointment of Yergi Daler, Alabak, Sheffrey, Picardi as legal counsel for real estate assessment appeals for the period of July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025 as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos.
Second.
Ms. Fuller, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.6, the approval of the appointment of law firm for special education matters. May I have a motion for the approval of the appointment of Sweet Stevens, Katz and Williams as legal counsel for special education for the period of July 1, 2024 to June 30, 2025 as presented? Dr. Otoli,
Second.
Ms. Fuller, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.7, the approval of a textbook for the 24-25 school year. May I have a motion for the approval of a textbook for the 24-25 school year as presented? And it is NASM Essentials of Personal Fitness Training.
So moved.
Ms. Sabo?
Second.
Ms. Munson, any discussion?
So 35 student textbook, so it's not online, it's a hard copy of the textbook, is that what's going on?
Correct.
It was like a class there.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.8, the ratification of homebound instruction. May I have a motion for the ratification of homebound instruction extension as presented?
So moved.
Mrs. Sabo?
Second.
Dr. Otoli, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.9, the approval of a waiver agreement. May I have a motion for the approval of a waiver agreement as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos?
Second.
Mrs. Munson, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.10, the approval of a settlement agreement and release. May I have a motion for the approval of a settlement agreement and release as presented?
So moved.
Ms. Chevelle Fuller? Dr. Otoli, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.11, the approval of a settlement agreement and release. May I have a motion for the approval of a settlement agreement and release as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos?
Second.
Ms. Chevelle Fuller, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.12, approval of board resolution to apply to the Pennsylvania Public School Facility Improvement Grant Program. May I have a motion for the approval of board resolution to apply to the Pennsylvania Public School Facility Improvement Grant Program as presented?
So moved.
Ms. Munson,
Second.
Mr. Harmonos, any discussion?
I think this one's a no-brainer.
Agreed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.13, the approval of receipt of proposed tax resolution for the 24-25 fiscal year. May I have a motion for the approval of receipt of proposed tax resolution for the 24-25 fiscal year as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos? Dr. Otoli, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 1314, approval of proposed 2024-25 governmental and proprietary funds budget. May I have a motion for the approval of proposed 2024-2025 governmental and proprietary funds budget as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Hermanos,
Second,
Mrs. Munson, any discussion?
want to thank the administration for the amount of work that went into this because I know that no matter how much we see, there's always a lot more that we don't see.
I think Mrs. Munson said it very well, that the sheer volume of work over many months that is done to produce a budget that meets both student success and financial stability for the district is incredibly important. And I appreciate the work that goes into doing that for our district.
Right, and I thank you and your staff for all the presentations and updates. All the materials you sent out are so clear and easy to follow, and any questions, they know where to find you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I also want to recognize Director of Finance Beth Polinsky, who is here. She puts a lot of work into this as well.
Thank you, Mrs. Hill. Any additional discussion?
So, when we approve the budget, you're looking for a grant all the time? Okay, and so even after we approve the budget and everything's all status quo, you don't relax on looking for more grants?
No, we don't relax. Whenever we hear of opportunities, I mean, we may not hear of everything, and I appreciate when people forward things to us, because we may have heard of it or we may have not known about it. But for example, this $5 million grant, we have a team of people working on that.
And how does that impact, or does it impact the rate that the school tax rate?
That doesn't impact the school tax rate because it's a different fund. So some of them would go through our operating budget, but this is a capital projects fund. We have a built-in stream of 1 mil, not million, mil of real estate taxes a year. Per board policy, they're transferred from the general operating fund, it's built-in millage and tax stream that is transferred over to the capital projects fund. So anytime that we can receive or obtain a grant that helps with capital expenditures, it helps. Because there's less pool of funds that we need to tap into in order to, especially for infrastructure, things like that. But those are mechanical infrastructure items.
Right. So when that money is, I hate to use the word sitting, but when it's collecting in there, is it invested so that it?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's invested. And we budget for the interest income too. So that's in the budget. Each fund has a certain amount of money that's in the cash and investments on the balance sheet. And then those funds earn interest based on where they're invested. And it's very strict rules and regulations about how we're allowed to invest taxpayer money. Very conservative. We're not in the business of losing anybody's money. So we're very conservative.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any additional discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.15, 2024 OJR Senior Property Tax Rent Rebate Program Update. May I have a motion for the approval of the 2024 OJR Senior Property Tax Rent Rebate Program as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos?
Okay.
Ms. Chevelle Fuller, any discussion?
We talked about other ways of advertising this, correct?
Yes.
Yes. And how is that going?
Well, we are going to have, I think the advocate, I don't know. If
He's
Mr.
behind you.
Rodriguez is here. We did put something together that will go out in the advocate, which will be helpful because that timing will be soon. And July 1 is the tax year with which this applies to. And then we'll be brainstorming about other ways to reach our seniors. So the first one is the advocate.
Okay, sounds good. I like the newspaper idea. And I know there's multiple other ones that go out to the district residents too.
Yep, we talked about that too.
Okay, any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.16, the approval of a resolution establishing tax collector compensation procedures and rules. May I have a motion for the approval of a resolution establishing tax collector compensation procedures and rules as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos. Second. Ms. Chevelle Fuller, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.17, the approval of 2024 Homestead and Farmstead Exclusion Resolution. May I have a motion for the approval of the 2024 Homestead and Farmstead Exclusion Resolution as presented?
We'd just like to, make a possible, revision to this, based on Mrs. Chapon's, note. Jackie's gonna look in to make sure that the reference, and I believe Mrs. Chapon is correct, that it should be, referencing, paragraph, 1D as opposed to 1C in item 3. But we're just gonna double check that with.
We'll double check that before we put your signature on it, Mrs. Peterson. I think it's just a typo in
Oh.
item 3, where it says 1C versus 1D. Amend?
Okay, so I'm gonna ask for a motion to pass 13.17 with an amended notation if necessary. Will that do it? Okay,
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos.
Second.
Mrs. Munson, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.18, the approval of appointment bond coverage and facsimile signature for board treasurer. May I have a motion for the approval of appointment bond coverage and facsimile signature for board treasurer as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Hermanos?
Second.
Ms. Munson, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.19, approval of annual filing of board officers' signature for facsimile signature act. May I have a motion for approval be granted for signatures of the school board president, secretary, and treasurer who are involved with instruments of payment of public securities be filed with the Secretary of the Commonwealth as per the uniform facsimile signature of Public Officials Act of July 21, 1961. PL 849 is amended PS Section 302 at Mrs. Susadell's not here to correct. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos, do I have a second? Ms. Munson, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.20, the approval of banks as depositories of school funds for the 24-25 school year. May I have a motion for the approval of banks as depositories of school funds for the 24-25 fiscal year as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos.
Second.
Ms. Chevelle Fuller, any discussion?
So how do we pick Fulton Hill? 'Cause is it in this area or no?
Would you like me to answer that question?
Yes, please.
There is a Fulton Bank on Route 100 North, but really everything is electronic. So we just wanted to make sure there was a bank that people could go to, but really everything is online payments, deposits. So we have a local depository.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.21, the authorization for employees to act as agents in signing vouchers and checks. May I have a motion for the authorization for employees to act as agents in signing vouchers and checks for the 24-25 fiscal year as presented?
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Hermanos? Ms. Sabo? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.22. The approval to establish a student activity. May I have a motion for the approval to establish a student activity club in accordance with the revisions of section 511 of the Pennsylvania School Code and School Board Regulation 122A and/or 122B as presented. This approval also provides for the establishment of accounts within the Student Activity Accounting System when applicable. At the high school, we have been asked to approve a Teens Against Drugs Club, and at the high school, no account needed. Avidium and Sending Sunshine. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Sabo, do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Fuller, any discussion?
So I think it's always nice to have more opportunities for students to talk out issues, what's going on. I think you can't have too many.
No. And I think at my counting, this brings our activity count at the high school into the triple digits. If I'm correct. I think this makes us to 101. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13.23, the approval of professional services maintenance agreements. May I have a motion for the approval of professional services maintenance agreements as presented?
So moved.
Mr. Harmonos, do I have a second? Dr. Otoli, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Agenda item 14, public comment. 14.1, information proposals and statements from individuals or delegations pertaining to any item. Speakers are to indicate your name and township of residence. Speakers will be limited to not more than 3 minutes. Please understand that this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in future deliberations. Also, if you have a question for the school board, please email all Board of School Directors at schoolboardmembers@ojrsd.net and you will receive a written response. For anyone who would like to make a comment online, please use the raise hand function. When it is your turn to speak, please state your name and township of residence.
Heather McCurry, East Coventry, same topic. I think you guys need to, and if I get cut off, I'll just send you an email. I think you guys need a refresher on the student activity counts. We had this back in 2016, 17, 18, and it comes up, and it was especially there because you're a parent and your kids are in the activity. The accounts are building up, and the job is the activity counts belong to the kids by law. And so the officers need to sit down, the advisor guides them about how they're going to spend the money. We had a whole big thing here in this district where some of the accounts were so out of control that action had to be taken. So here you have the government account for $42,000. That is crazy. That should be spent right away on some of the seniors and a plan. We also had an issue with the musical account. How that got rectified was some of the money was spent to go on a Broadway trip, bus and tickets, I think for $5,000, which was so cheap. And then one of the other favorites of mine that was back then also, which is also up, because when we would look at it, and there are people in the community that talk about this, they just don't want to come in front of you guys. I say come, but they will not. So the lacrosse account for the girls is also up. And we've talked about numerous times pay to play. Nobody wants to put that in, but essentially there is pay to play here because the sports teams are told to fundraise. And when we did this in 15, 16, 17, there's supposed to be a plan when you have a fundraiser, right? If you have an activity, there's supposed to be a plan in place for the money so that kids are just not out there doing fundraisers to raise money. So sure, if you want to take the kids on a trip next year, but the kids are raising money this year, at least let them go to their banquet and not have to pay for it and have the parents who've paid in do that, right? There's some kind of, like, it's just time to maybe look at it again because those accounts are building up. There's interest that's being put back in. It needs to be looked at. I don't know if I hit my 3 minutes, but I really, an activity that was near and dear to my heart, the girls lacrosse team. You know, a couple people stood in front of you guys last spring, asked you to take care with the hiring. And this year you had a nationally ranked team, did not even make it out of districts. So it's time to start to see what are you guys going to do to help those kids. The talent in that sport is tremendous. It would behoove everybody now to start a search to say, how are we going to get that back? Because that was a loss to this district. Thank you.
Hi, Dana Chaffone, East Vincent Township. I have this big flowy thing that I wrote up, but I really just want to try to speak from the heart. First, I was so moved by the valedictorian and say it for me, Torian. Yeah, I mean, their accomplishments are amazing in recognizing their teachers. And I'm a parent of a special education student who graduated last year. You know, I think about, and I know some of you sit in the same position that I do, I think about, you know, when we have our children, the hopes and the dreams that we have for them. And I would really, really like to see the board pass a resolution asking the state to give more money for special education funding, if that's the process. I just feel that we need to have more funds to be able to fully and accurately identify our special education students and their needs and fully and effectively address their supports. It's such a heartfelt thing. And even though my student has graduated, I will come here every meeting if I have to, do whatever I can, because I think this is a group of students that deserves all the same opportunities and all the same level of success as the rest of our student body. So that is my one thing. On 1317, I'm sorry, it is item 3. I printed it out and I didn't bring it with me. It's item 3, so thanks. And the other topic is the master facilities plan. And this is the one that I have this big write-up on. I was going to email you back, David. Thank you for your response, but I figured I'd come here and speak to you directly. Yeah, it's a big ticket item, right? I mean, it's like over $100 million. So I did look at some of the spending and it seems like, and I took out like the administration building. I just took that off the table. And it looks to me like 40% of the spending is on athletics and extracurriculars. And not that those things aren't important, but I would just ask us to really consider our priorities as far as, you know, STEAM and IT is a big focus now. That wasn't around 5 or 6 years ago. We just rolled out STEAM. So how do we re-engage the community? And I asked about this in another meeting, through either an open comment period and or a survey, so that all parents have the opportunity and community members to weigh in on this amount of spending. I know you haven't spent the money, but I think we do need to go back to the community and ask, you know, 6 years later, post-COVID, what has changed in our world? What's important to us? So I really would ask that you do that and look at that amount of spending. You know, sports are great and we have great sports teams, but we are very fortunate. We have well-appointed fields and facilities now. And I compare that to some other public schools in the area that don't have what we have. And, you know, academically, they're doing as well, if not better than OJR. So, you know, those nice to have projects. Okay, that's my 3 minutes. You know, I just think that we should reconsider, or at least have some level of justification, some financial means of looking at that. And can I just add on the rebates? Maybe a way to get out to the community is through the township websites, and they have newsletters too. If you could, you know, I saw that Abington Township, I have family there, and then they posted something in their township newsletter. Thank you for listening. I have more to say. I'll come back to another meeting, but thanks again.
Do you have mine? Agenda item 15, board discussion, follow-up, and request for information. Do any board members have discussion, follow-up, or request for information at this time?
Just one quick question. Uh, The, the activity accounts were brought up, and I was just curious. So, we're currently searching for a, assistant athletic director,
An activities director.
activities director. I'm sorry if I got the title incorrect. Is that something that would fall under this new hire?
Yes, the new person would be responsible for monitoring that, along with the high school administration, the high school principal as well.
Anything else?
Oh, and I guess just to clarify, these funds that are associated with student activities, we don't have any say in
changing what they do with the activities, right?
Correct. They have a structure. They're run by the students and the students have a say in what they want to do. We have advisors for those, but they are student funds to be spent and coordinated by students.
Right. So I would understand if a student is feeling a little bit intimidated coming in the fall, and if their activity has a large budget, maybe not having a plan, but it certainly seems like we should be able to support them through that process of figuring out what a good plan would be.
I would say,
Do the activity or do the student activity groups, do they get like monthly statements?
Yes, and just to clarify, they do have a plan and the money is planned for, and any balances over $10,000, I have a written plan. And many of these items are already in process. You just haven't received that statement yet because we're in arrears.
right, so do recognize that the statement that we approved tonight is from March, I believe.
I think it's
Is it March?
the last one.
So it does not account for monies that have been spent in the last almost 60 days. Okay, any additional requests or conversation?
I would
Okay.
like the board to consider the creation of an ad hoc committee for next year regarding diversity. I know at many of the town halls, we've had significant comments about, diversity problems within our district. And I'm just not seeing a lot of motion in the district to address these. And I think an ad hoc committee might be able to, put some more energy and more direction into this type of service for these students.
Question on that? Are you considering like it would be a board and community sort of committee, or what?
It
what-
could be,
What
yeah.
sort
I
of
don't-
makeup are you
I
thinking?
don't know, but I think that this needs to be addressed at a board level at this point, because I think we need to do something. And we've been hearing comments for this for over 2 years. And the same comments keep coming up. I think this is higher level.
I certainly think that's a worthwhile venture for the board. I think we would have to do some homework on what that type of committee, as Mrs. Munson said, how it would be structured with both board and community involvement and what that would look like, as well as, understanding and developing some goals for what that committee might look like.
What are there steps for the creation of an ad hoc committee? How does that work?
We've
What
not
I
created-
recall of the policy is that we have the ability to change our own committees. If it's an ad hoc, if it's not a permanent committee, we should have the ability to just vote it into existence at any time. We should not have to change the policy in order to do that.
So a motion would have to be made to create that at future board meetings. We'd have to put that on an agenda for maybe the
Mhm.
next meeting. Is that how that would work?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we can review the policy too and give board leadership some direction on that.
Yeah.
Yep.
No? That's fine. Okay, then I am going to adjourn this evening's meeting. Thank you, everyone.